All right, hello again, class. So we're going to go over in this milestone the steps for actually creating your semester assignment. Now you might go, well, no, why didn't you do this at the beginning? I wanted your ideas to flow freely at the beginning. I wanted you to write down whatever came to your mind. I wanted it to be raw and just based upon your experience, your research. I didn't mean to cause too much stress, but at the same time to kind of show you what it feels like to have something like that thrown at you. And usually when you get a project like that thrown at you, you have a lot on your plate, there's a lot going on, and you have to readjust. So, and I made it pretty clear on the first milestone that I didn't expect anything great and fantastic. Many of you just sketched out something on a piece of paper, took a picture of it, and sent that to me with a written response of, hey, you know, this is kind of what I was thinking, and that's perfectly okay. That's actually how you start this process. So when you're confronted with these great ideas that somebody comes up with, you have to put into practice what you know about networking in order to properly design a network that not only satisfies the requirements, but is scalable, because you have to kind of look at the bigger picture. They are giving you requests, such as the president of that district, of that, you know, the K through 12 system, saying, you know, I want the students all to have Wi-Fi accessible on their computers, but I don't want them to be searching the internet for things that they shouldn't search for. He doesn't know how that works or what that looks like, or even what else goes into that, what else you should be looking at, because you're thinking, okay, yeah, I also don't want them, you know, probing the network. I don't want them downloading tools. I don't want them trying to gain access to things that they shouldn't gain access to. And that includes, and you usually find that with some of the older students, such as the high school students. As they gain more knowledge and they watch more movies, they realize that, hey, I can be a hacker too, and they try things out. So you kind of have to look at the big picture. Okay, if we do this, then I need to make sure I also cover this aspect of it. Now, you can't see everything all the time, and sometimes this is a moving target, and you have to just pretty much get it up there, get it working, and then go, okay, yeah, we need to adjust this, we need to, you know, adjust that. So keep that in mind also, that it doesn't have to be perfect immediately, just as close as you can get. So what does it look like when you are given a project like that and you have to design a network? You have to go through and say, okay, these are the components, this is the request I've been given, and put it all together to make it work. This is where you start off in a logical manner. Rather than jumping into, okay, well, what does each campus look like? What does, you know, each building look like? You know, what does each floor look like? What's the wiring situation, all that kind of stuff. You can get into that later. You want to start off with a logical idea first. And the best way to do that, at least for me, is to start off on a whiteboard. Whiteboard, piece of paper, you know, a tablet, pretty much anything that you can just sit there and sketch something out. All right, so one of the things was Campus A, Campus B, Campus C. And at each campus, you know, you're going to need Wi-Fi. So basically, it's identifying what's needed at each campus. So Wi-Fi, we're going to need printers, and of course you can either do graphics, or you can do boxes, or you can just spell it out. Printers, stuff on this side. Printers, and then let's see, we're going to also need, we have student computers. Now you think, okay, well, Campus B is actually the main office, the district office, let's say, and there aren't any students there. So you just have your K through 8 here and your 9 through 12 down here. You know, why do you have students at, you know, that campus? You might not, but then again, you might. So it's something to consider. Will they ever have any special classes at this particular campus? And the reason you're writing all of this out now is it's just the big possibilities. So then let's see here, we're definitely going to need some servers. Actually, we'll probably need server at each campus. So the main server that houses the main information will be at, let's say, the district office, campus B. And that's where administration is, that's where the president is, that's where the deans, etc. are, or however, what individuals are in a K through 12 organization. And they'll have, business services and so forth at, let's say, this particular office in order to manage all of the money and the information that affects the entire school district. And then at each campus, you'll have the various individuals who are also administration. So, let's say there'll be a principal here and a principal here. There will be maybe admissions here. There'll be various departments here that are sub-departments of main administration site there. So, but let's say, since they want a central student database, that might be housed at campus B. And so your main servers are going to be here, and you think, okay, well, in that case, why do we need a server at campus A and at campus C? Well, because if for some reason the connection to campus B goes down, it's nice to have a backup connection, or a backup server. So sometimes what they do is they'll have a mirrored server. So some of the services will be housed here, and then it gets mirrored over to here. And this server gets updated, so to speak. There's also different servers here. Let's say there are print servers here, print server at each location. That it would be unwise, just due to the network connection, to have the print server here. So in some cases, you can have all of the servers located at this location, and then everything else just points to that. So that is a possibility. Kind of shoot for the moon, and to have a server at each location if possible. If that's too expensive for them, have a plan B and say, okay, well, we can centralize all the servers here, and then the computers will point to those particular servers. The printers will point to those particular servers, etc. So let's see, we have Wi-Fi, we have printing, we have students, we have servers, we have, let's see, employees. And then we're going to have network. So these are the different devices that we'll have at each campus. And so this is how you begin to draft it out. All right, so that's how you would do a rough draft. You would get a whiteboard and you would draft it out. Okay, these are the things that you need. It helps you to visualize exactly what's going to be needed, so that way you can go back to your computer and actually start making a list of all of these services that you might need. Because as you're standing at the whiteboard, a lot of times ideas come to you and you go, oh yeah, I'm going to need that. Oh yeah, I'm going to need this. And sometimes those ideas don't come to you as readily if you're sitting down and trying to create a professional document. So whiteboard, piece of paper, napkin, pretty much anything that allows you to think freely and let the ideas flow. Once you get that down, then you move on to what we're showing right now, where you actually begin to create a real logical idea of what the network is going to look like. So in this case, we have the Wi-Fi. What we had on the whiteboard is now being transferred over. So we have our campus, our grade school, let's say, and we go, okay, yeah, we know that we're going to need network devices. What network devices are we going to need? Well, we're going to need a router, for sure. We're going to need, let's say, a core switch or a distribution switch, and you can list whatever type of switch you think is going to be needed. And that distribution switch will eventually have printers and Wi-Fi and computers connected to it. And those are, let's say, the three main areas. And it doesn't give a clear example of exactly each floor, is going to have this, and this is where, in this office is where it's going to be. This is just a very general, logical idea of what everything is going to look like. So that way, at a glance, you can go, okay, this campus has, printers and servers, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, each campus we talked about should preferably have a server of its own, such as a data server, such as a print server, maybe even a deployment server. So that way at each site, you can handle those services without having to worry about network traffic, because some of those things can actually be very network intensive. File servers, if you have a lot of people accessing large files across the network and the network is not capable of handling it, and by the network I mean the WAN, then, such as if you're on a T1 line or whatever, it's not going to be great if people at campus A are having to reach across the WAN to campus B for large files, manipulate them, save them, and so forth. Things are going to happen to where either the files get corrupted or it's just going to slow everything down horribly. Then we come to the issue of Windows updates, etc. So you can set up what they call a WSUS server, speaking of Windows updates, in order to, that server at night goes to Microsoft and gets all of the updates that you've approved, creates a central location for all of the computers to then receive their updates from. That way you don't have a few hundred computers trying to go to Microsoft at the same time, trying to get all of their large updates. And as we know, Microsoft pushes out very large updates at times. And so rather than bottlenecking the network and overloading it, rather, with Windows updates, because those oftentimes will happen at the most inopportune times, you can set up a local WSUS server and it's all local on the local network and it can handle that traffic. So just some ideas of servers that you might need at each campus. And then of course you're going to need your distribution switch, as we talked before, a router, and it's going to go out to the WAN. The ideal situation is if you had all of the money in the world, you could run a dedicated fiber link between each campus. Because nobody has that much money, most of the time, we use an internet service provider to hop onto their backbone and do a VPN through. So you can connect campuses, they're sharing internal resources across a public network. Again, we talked about what a VPN is and how it tunnels through that public network to provide a secure connection between two or more locations. And so in this case, I've listed the high school, the various equipment pretty much duplicated as to what it will need there, the central office, what it's going to need, etc. So this is what a logical topology looks like. This is what, again, you're not addressing each building, each campus, each floor. That will actually come later. So for Milestone 2, create a clear, logical topology of what exactly is going to be needed in order to get this network up and running. Really, I wanted you to focus on the logical topology. And that's why we've taken so much time with this, because the logical topology is actually very important. It becomes easier once you get down to the physical topology and you go to a campus and you say, okay, it has this layout, this particular layout. And I did not include any of that in the scenario because it's not needed for this particular assignment. I just wanted a logical approach. But if you get to a particular campus and you say, okay, there are X amount of offices, there's a drop ceiling, etc. As you do the campus walk, you figure out, we can set a printer here, and we can set a printer here. No, we can't do a centralized printer here. We can set our servers up here. Here's a good place for an IDF, etc. Some of you have actually already done some of that to where you've laid out the topology of the campuses and what it might look like, which is totally awesome and totally cool. Take some of that though and move it into the logical realm of what things will look like. So this is showing, hey, this is what we need. This is what's going to be supplied. And at a glance, this is kind of what it looks like. So for Milestone 2, I want you on one document to create a logical topology. And this can be created in Microsoft Word. It's actually pretty easy to do, and I've showed you that in previous videos. Do a brief intro, just explaining what we're looking at. So milestone 2, do your email to the president. Do a brief intro. This will be 3 pages at least. An intro, and then a logical topology, a logical diagram of what your network would look like. And again, at the beginning, when you get thrown this, you go to your whiteboard, you start sketching it all out, you figure out some of the things that you're going to need based upon their requests, and also maybe based upon things that you would like to provide or see the need for in the future. So let's say they didn't ask for a file server, but that you've noticed that they are carrying USB drives around, and you're like, yeah, that's not super great and fantastic. How about we create a centralized file server, and everybody can share files based upon their department, and I will set up permissions, etc. You can write that all out. Now, some of you have already done all of this, so this is going to be easy just to fine-tune it. Make sure it is in one document, so that way we don't have multiple. I don't have multiple documents to look at. Try to put it all into one document. So your email, your intro, and your logical diagram of the network for milestone 2, just as what's shown here. Diagram, brief intro, and your email to the president or the owner of, or to the president of this K through 12 system.